Welcome to Musings and Modalities. I'm your host, Tristen Stawicki. Think of me as your pragmatic shaman bestie. Join in with other high vibe, lovely people as I unravel spiritual ideas to help create change and growth in your life. I cover a variety of spiritual topics, sharing knowledge to meet you wherever you are in your journey. As a shaman, astrologer, and human design reader, I help you understand how to make informed decisions and incorporate different modalities using discernment and your own intuition. Today, you will gain powerful shamanic healing tools you can use to incorporate spiritual practices in non-traditional ways. Whether you're just beginning or need a knowledgeable best friend with the next phase of your journey, I'm here to help. Stay tuned. Musings and Modalities starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Musings and Modalities. I'm Tristen Stawicki, your pragmatic shaman bestie, and today we have a very special guest, Allison GiamBruno, founder of Made In, a multidisciplinary marketing and creative studio for visionaries, for creatives, and values-led founders, which we love that language. In this episode, we are going to cover quite a few things. We're going to talk about how to find your authentic voice and her beautiful, like, holistic approach to marketing and social media. What's incredible is Allison's gift is really finding the authentic voice for each of her clients and producing beautiful storytelling across mediums that feel very soul aligned and very truthful and very honest, which is lovely. So I want you to encourage you to really keep watching to learn those top tips for crafting effective and aligned messages online and how to use marketing with integrity. Allison, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. That was such a beautiful intro. Thank you.
Feel free to steal it whenever you need. No, I'm so glad. What makes it easy is like, not only have we worked together, but you're very clear about who you are and who your business is, right? And that just really speaks to your gift. So like when you make everyone else's job easier when we don't have to guess like what your values are, right? And like your approach, because you're like very blatant about it, like and truthful, which is beautiful.
Thank you. I try very hard, so I'm glad it comes across.
It does. It definitely lands. And, it's kind of a great kind of segue into our first question, which is, you don't necessarily use the word authentic in your messaging, right? But it's not like specifically called out, but we really feel it. So when you think about the word authentic, what really comes to mind for you?
Yeah, so I know very often when people think of the word authentic, they think of more like vulnerable or raw. Like I see sometimes people associate being authentic with like maybe crying on camera or something like that. But personally, I don't think of it that way. I think of authenticity more closely tied to like this alignment. So that alignment between your voice, your values, how you show up day to day, how you show up in your business, and really tying that all together. So I think of it more as like this quiet confidence in what you do and how you show up, and never anything that feels performative, but something that feels correct to you and how that comes across to your audience.
That's really beautiful because I feel like when you can feel when something's performative, right? You're like, I
Yeah.
can't name it, but you're like, ooh, that doesn't, I don't know, something about that doesn't read true. Are there
Yeah.
any people when you think of like really good examples of who embraces their authentic voice that like comes to mind for you?
Yeah. When I thought of this, I was really trying to think of people who are like outside of the marketing realm because I know, like for me, I'm like obsessed with it, but I know not everyone is.
Okay.
So someone that comes to mind for me is her name on TikTok and Instagram is Girl, and her name's Jada, and she's like a sculpt Pilates yoga instructor, but she takes like a really different approach, and she plays like a lot of rap in her classes, and like she has really incorporated like this beautiful dance into her practice. And I think like that is such a beautiful example of someone who's showing up authentically and like bringing in this audience that feels so closely aligned with what she does. But she's still doing, like she's still in the yoga realm, but she's doing something so completely different and aligned with her voice and her values. And it's clearly working for her because she has just like blown up.
That's fabulous. And I know in our like personal conversations when we were talking about like my own business social media, you reference other examples in like nutrition as well. And what I thought was so cool is like you're finding people in unregulated industries, right? And so that still
Yeah.
shine through and they speak to you because you're like, oh, that feels different and that feels true, right? And they
Mhm.
really stand out because of that in a beautiful way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And someone in the marketing world who I thought of for this is her name is I think it's Xanthi Appleyard, which is like what a cool last
Yeah.
name. But she does like a lot of work with people in the marketing industry to talk about like really finding your voice and your values and like how you can communicate that in a way that feels different from other people and isn't so like I stand for this, and then that's it. Like, how can you incorporate that into like your copy, your messaging, your photo shoots? Like, how can you incorporate it into every aspect of your marketing so it like really comes across to people? Because what's that like? I think there's like a stat or something where it's like, oh, it takes 7 times for people to like understand what you do or like what you sell. So she's like really heavy into really communicating your tone and your voice and your values throughout every aspect of your marketing.
That's beautiful. In my head, I always double that number being in like the spiritual space, honestly, like in
Yeah.
my head, which may be a little not as helpful thought, but I'm always like, you're trying to describe what a shaman is. Like it's going to take people at least couple more times, maybe. We'll give them a little bit more grace to figure
Yeah.
it out. That's so beautiful. So when you think about, so we have these gorgeous examples, and when you think about kind of your own authentic voice, how did you craft that? How did you find that?
Yeah. So this is actually something that was like really difficult for me because I come from an agency background and it can be really difficult when you're working with clients, like when you have a realtor client and then you also have like a nutritionist, for example, or a boutique owner. It's like your own personal voice and your own personal values gets really like clouded with your clients. And it's also just like a tough industry to be in. Like everyone's always go, go, go. So when I started my company, it was really hard for me to like really figure out who I was, and like what I truly stood for. And I knew I wanted to be different than my agency experience and like those companies that I worked for, but I just like couldn't put my finger on how. And then what really happened was I started to kind of lose like the corporate speak, like the LinkedIn lingo and like I've always just been like a very bubbly, happy person and I really felt like the experience I had to really like okay, let's bring it down. Like you have to be uber professional. And when I started taking on my own clients, I found people like they just want to talk to a human, like just be real. And when I started doing that is really when I found like this authentic voice and was able to communicate that clearly. And also, to be completely honest, I worked with someone for my branding recently, and that was like just like the biggest shift. And it was so helpful to see an outside perspective because when you're inside your business, you get so caught up in like, like obviously I know what I do, but how can I communicate that to other people who aren't from the same world that I'm from? Um, so yeah, really the biggest things were ditching the corporate speak for me and then working with someone on my own branding and having their questionnaire and their process and like really digging deep into how I want to be presented.
That's so beautiful. And like, I really want to highlight, I always find it odd and weird. And I typically don't work with people that like don't have their own coaches because I'm like, well, if
Yeah.
you're not trying, it's not all the time, right? Of course, you can have times where you're like, I'm just going to focus on my business. I'm going to take a break from, work on myself or whatever. But when it's very much like, oh yeah, I know it all, so I don't need to go to other people. No one knows and I'm just like, no, that's not true. Like that's
Yeah, no.
no, everyone needs help, and that's beautiful. And like it's a great way to support, like to make a choice with our dollar, right? And to be like, I want to support someone else, just like my clients support me. Like that's lovely. So just want to honor that, because it's great to have someone see your gifts, right? And really honor those.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I 100% agree. Like it's so difficult when you're completely stuck inside your business that you can't see like this outside perspective. And one thing that can be really helpful for this that I sometimes tell my clients is if you can look at the testimonials that people are giving you and like what is
Mhm.
that common thread, like try to pick out what other people see in you or your business, and that can really help you like kind of pinpoint what makes you different and how you can stand out a little bit.
That's beautiful. Right. Because like when you're in it, when you're in session, when you're in coaching mode, it's almost for me, it's very much channeled. I'm sure you feel the same at times where you're just like, my experience is coming through, but it's like this, just like you can feel the direction to go, right? It's vibes based. as well as experience based. So that's awesome. Um, when we think about kind of social media that can feel inauthentic or an exaggeration, what I really love about your work is you're very careful to really share like truth in a story or in a post, right? You're very much like, let's go to the actual testimonials of your client, not something that is an exaggeration or something like that. Like, let's go to the facts. And like, when you think about storytelling, how are you approaching this across a large variety of clients? Are there pillars or like core tenets you kind of tie to? What does that look like?
Yeah, so because everyone is so different, usually, like, of course, because we work together, I
Yeah.
start with like a brand questionnaire that really I try to dig very deep into, like where you're at. And like I told you, when people give me detail here, like it is the most helpful thing. So like once you get really rooted into that brand strategy and that social media strategy, and you pick out things like voice and values and who you're really here to serve. When you have that clarity, it becomes so much easier to like find that truth and post things that are authentic to you. So a few questions that I like try to ask my clients for this is what values are non-negotiable in your business and how you serve others. So this can be so helpful in picking out like what are the non-negotiables and how you show up for your clients? Do you want to be perceived as someone with integrity? I mean, I'm sure we all really do, but I know I do. But and then what are your clients struggling with when they find you? How does your offer or offers help shift that? So this can really pick out the transformation you want your client to experience. And then what do you believe is missing from your industry and how do you want to fill that gap? I feel like of any question I ask, this is probably the most important one because if you can't answer this question, then your clients or the people who you want to work with don't know either. So
Right.
when you can figure these things out and like really put them down on paper and get clear about how you feel about them and what kind of transformation you want people to experience with you, it becomes so much easier to share things truthfully and feel out like what works for you on social media. And once you know yourself and your business, you don't feel this pressure to follow every trend or every type of posting or every platform. Like it becomes so crystal clear, like who you're here to serve, what platform they're on, and then like how you want to show up on those platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. What I also really loved about your approach is it wasn't like I'm very data driven and I love data and it has a time and a place. But if you aren't clear on like the story you want to tell, like it's way too early to talk about those nuance of like what the type of audience you know what I mean? And like all of those like
Yeah.
click-through rate and like all of those, I don't want to say buzzwords because they do have value, but the very marketing heavy kind of jargon. And what I love, it's like, no, are we reaching a core audience? And is that 10 people? Is that 1,000? Like whatever that looks like for you, but do they understand who you are, what you do? And understand like you're the person to go to when they have this need. Like there's such beauty in that that a number can't quantify, I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like coming from the agency world and of course in marketing, sometimes we just get so obsessed with the numbers and we forget we're talking to a real person who has real struggles and real lived experiences that you just can't do justice to that with a number. Like you just have to look beyond the numbers and remember who you're actually talking to.
No, absolutely. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about, when we are crafting effective social media, and we've talked about that storytelling aspect. Do you have a few tips for effectively sharing messages online that we can share with the audience that they can immediately implement, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like we already talked about, really digging into who you're talking to. So not even just demographics, or personas like we talked about, but really what transformation they're craving. And then um, really choosing a format that fits your message and your energy. Like we talked about this a little bit too, but if you hate being on camera, like you don't have to do reels. Like you can try stock video, you can try different formats of reels. If you really love writing long captions, then maybe something like a Substack or like a email marketing newsletter is the best fit for you and the type of people you want to attract. And then really like the most effective format is the one you'll actually use, and that helps your message land clearly. So, and then another one is really streamlining your process. So if you can take one piece of content and transform it into four other pieces of content, that can be super helpful. And you don't have to make it feel like this giant chore because really everyone knows we have to be on social media. I mean, most of us. I would love to be in the type of business that doesn't need one. But most of us has to be there. Um, but if you can just be like really intentional about where you are and how you use your time and how you use your energy on social media, it just helps streamline everything. Um, and then really one of the biggest ones is talking less about yourself and more about your client. So it's so easy to slip into, I do this, here's how I do it. I did this week, and this is the type of transformation I made happen. But like really, when you think about it from a client perspective, like I want to see myself in your marketing. I want to see the transformation that I can have in your marketing. So if you can focus more about what you see in them and how you understand their challenges and how you're there to guide their transformation, that can make all the difference in your marketing. And then always just coming back to your core messaging. So, not every post has to be groundbreaking. If you can just kind of repeat the most important things in new ways, your brand voice and story gets so much stronger when you're just consistently showing up, and saying similar things in different ways.
Absolutely. And to add to that, which was beautiful, thank you. Those are incredible tips and like really hit a number of ways I think that listeners can implement, right? Is really thinking about social media being a tool. How can I make it work for me? Like
Mhm.
if I have a couple hours on a Sunday, can I go to a place and just get some B-roll, just get some photos of flowers, video of flower, you know what I mean, or whatever that is. It's pretty neutral, a neutral background that's beautiful to me. You could use many ways, right?
Mhm.
When we think about, social media overall and bringing our whole self, can you talk about like when it's okay to be funny and topical and things like that, and how that's also a part of the authentic voice?
Yeah, I know like we did a lot of work with this too, but yeah, it's always okay to bring in your personality. Like I know with myself personally, that was like a huge shift for me because I just wasn't used to that. But when you can like bring in your personality in unique ways that still ties to that transformation that your client is after, or like points of connection with your client. Like I know we talked about like Love Island, like in Bravo, like we both love reality TV. And like I want to work with people who also love reality TV and who are also open to those like kinds of fun experiences. So if you can connect the service or maybe like the education to something fun, like Love Island, that can be a really great way to bring in like your personality. Other things like I am a this type of service provider, but I'm also a mom, or I'm also a sister, or I'm also like a pro pickleball champion or something. Like you can bring in those little moments of connection, and personality without losing your core messaging for sure.
I love that because what I don't want is for people to feel like the polished versions of themselves that is authentic is all they can show up as, right? Because
Yeah.
that drains my energy to think about. I'm like, no, I want to be like I want to come up as like my full self, just like in my day job, right? I want to be my full vibrant self and I don't want to have to hold back. And I'm sure that's exactly what you experienced at the agency vibe, right? Where it's like I
Mhm.
can't be bubbly because I'll look inexperienced and young. Like how can I age
Mhm.
myself up, because I had that same thing where like
Yep.
young face, you know what I mean? Like, or if, starting your first couple of jobs, you're like, how do I present like I belong here, right?
Mhm.
So, no, that
Yeah,
makes
absolutely. And coming from the client side, like who wants to work with someone who is just this like perfectly polished person? Because like none of us are, you know what I mean? We all
right.
have like, personalities and pain points and a transformation we want. So I don't want to work with someone who is this like perfectly polished person because that makes me feel like intimidated. So if you can look at it from that perspective too, like sometimes it's so helpful to bring in your personality because when you think about it from that perspective, you're really like calling in the people that you want to work with that way.
Definitely. I often think of the example of like Martha Stewart, where when she started to like really show the other facets of her personality, like she had a whole kind of revolution, for lack of a better term. And it much more palatable, much more interesting, much more fun to engage with. And so we never want that polished facade because like there's nothing, you just want to poke at it and be like, what's underneath there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that example. Love her.
Yes, definitely. As we are scrolling and as I think as I try to be very careful with my energy on social media and like who you follow, I think of very similarly to like the average of your five friends. You know what I mean? Because what I don't want is like to give energy, which is what we're doing an energetic exchange when we give people attention and their posts attention. And so when we think about ways to kind of vet if a post or a person isn't quite aligned or fully authentic. Like, how do you look at that? Are there some key kind of things you're like, oh, their voice is this or what have you?
Yeah, I really feel like once you get really clear on your own voice and your own values, like it almost becomes like a little bit of a gut reaction. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I'll be scrolling and I'll see something and I'm like, wait a minute. Like personally for me, I don't really connect with like income driven marketing. So being like, I made 10K as a web designer and here's how you can do it. Like it's just not something that connects with me. And also like this like shame-based marketing, like five mistakes you're making as like a nutritionist or, like a any type of service provider. Those like types of marketing don't really feel right for me. And that's just because I try to listen to my intuition here a little bit. But like really once you start listening to your gut, start listening to your intuition when you're scrolling, you can feel out what is and isn't working for you. And you can just know, like, you don't have to hop on every trend. You don't have to be on maybe it's even a social media platform that doesn't feel right for you. You don't have to be there either. If you could just get so clear about who you are, then it's so much easier to spot what isn't resonating with you.
No, that's beautiful. And you're so right. Like I always get the sense, and I think I've shared this openly on the show. If I know more about your income, and I've literally people will post like their like profit and loss and like all of this crazy stuff. And I'm like, if I know more about your income than my own, like that's not marketing that resonates with me. That is, I'm just gonna keep moving on.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Especially because I'm like, and you're selling a course to, like how much did that course make you? Yeah, just
Yep.
a lot of flags to vet. So awesome. Well, when we think about, what I really love about your businesses and approach is it really takes the elements that are helpful from marketing without feeling too jargony, and it brings in innovative ideas, right? Because I feel like marketing, and I feel the same way about, traditional publicity, is like they're really they're really figuring out their level up that needs to happen in this next phase of consuming, right? Consuming is very different. We have the rise of AI. There's just a different audience that we have. So as you continue to kind of expand your business, can you kind of share what's up next for you and what's up next for Made In?
Yeah, that was so kind. Thank you. I completely feel this because I started out just doing mostly social media marketing and like a little bit of email marketing, but when I started to work with people on my own, I noticed like for the small business owner especially and for like founders who have smaller businesses, it can be so difficult to try to go to one person for each different thing that you're trying to do, like trying to find someone who does video, someone who does web. And usually people just don't have budgets for that anyway, unless you're, like a bigger brand. So when I started to like really think about that, I started to feel like I really wanted to shift my business to start collaborating with some really amazing creatives that I know personally. So I've started to actually work with someone who does podcast production, who's really amazing audio engineer, and someone who does photo and video. And I've started to dig way deeper into email marketing, and I really love it, and web design. So just kind of like expanding into a much more holistic space because that is really where I feel like business owners are needing marketing people to go because it's just really difficult to try and get all these different things from all these different people, and it gets really messy very quickly. So I really want to focus on providing that holistic experience and kind of like pulling in people who I know are extremely talented at what they do and to have the integrity that I know they do, and working with businesses who want to start really doing as much as they can with their marketing.
No, that's beautiful because like as a business owner, I've been in that place where like I've worked with a couple different providers for different things and I'm like I'm spending more time project managing than I'm saving
Hmm.
and the
Yeah.
deliverable, right? You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to communicate, okay, here's a strategy here. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I'm trying, and then of course, more importantly, I'm trying to support my clients, right? Which is the whole reason why I'm
Hmm.
here. You know what I mean? So all of that other stuff can get either lost. Admittedly, I am not good on email marketing. I know we're meeting, very soon to fix that because it's just not a natural thing for me. It's something that I love reading other emails and like I bookmark what I really enjoy, and it's just not something I've had the time to spend on. So I love that
Yeah.
you're these are the pain points and you can focus on what you do best and let us focus on what we do best. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because why? I mean, I don't know how to do anything in your business. Why would you know how to do all this marketing stuff? Like, it's just like, it feels like an impossible task for a business owner. And I completely see that. So, yeah, I want to be there to support the people who want to do what they do best and don't really want to touch the marketing too much.
Right, but it's still that partnership too, where it's like you show up, you understand your business, you tell us as you're pivoting because businesses do pivot and they need even more
Mhm.
support at that time. As I've shifted from personally, like from working with a lot of that kind of those in life transition to more of those like newly promoted executives in leadership and still supporting, my clients that have been with me since day one, still supporting, women at times of transition in their life, but also saying like there's this whole other aspect of my life that I use in my coaching that I hadn't really expressed in my like own business experience, my MBA, my, leadership, that you were so helpful in kind of helping me put together, which was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited for that shift for you because I just so like, it just like aligns so perfectly, I feel. So I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I'm so excited for you. And as you think about kind of that next step for Made In, do you want to share any where people can find you, any specific dates or anything coming up?
Yeah, so I don't have any specific dates. I'm trying to work in my own web design while I work in other people's web design in marketing. So that's been fun. But so people can find me at maidenmarketing.co for my website. And then for Instagram, it's maidenmarketing.co again. And then I, as a email marketer, have been trying to give myself the kick in the butt to start my own newsletter. So that'll probably be coming soon, but
I love that. Well, and then now you have more to talk about respectfully, right? Where you're like, here are the offerings, here's the cool projects. Because I found you through like one of your exceptionally cool projects, and I would love to learn, as long as the clients had give permission or whatever, like who else? Like, where are some
Mhm.
partnerships naturally in your network that make sense? You know what I mean? For services you don't provide, which is awesome.
Yeah. 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 So that's where people can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I know our audience will really enjoy this. They have tangible tips where they can really find their authentic voice, learn storytelling, embracing the truth. So appreciate you being here and really sharing this incredible purpose of, showing up as your full self on social media in a way that's aligned and having that more holistic approach to marketing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience so much for watching Musings and Modalities with me, your pragmatic shaman bestie. Tune in the second and fourth Thursdays of each month at 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern for more fabulous episodes. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Musings and Modalities with me, Tristen, your pragmatic shaman bestie. For more powerful healing tools, join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. I cover a variety of topics to meet you wherever you are at on your spiritual journey. Learn techniques to work with pendulums, past life healing, astrology, and more. Please share the show and subscribe for more guidance from your pragmatic shaman bestie at musingsandmodalities.com.